Welcome back to another episode of Crown Gilded and Screwed, Happy Hour Edition. I'm your host, Cara May Adamo. If you're new here, thanks for joining us on the sort of boozier side of our channel here at CGS. For those that don't know, our other episodes generally cover unlucky royalty or sometimes royal-ish people. We use that term a little loosely around here. While I ramble on, I tend to enjoy a cocktail, and this series teaches you how to make them so that you can enjoy them with me. No one likes to drink alone. Now, sometimes these will be historic cocktails like our last one was on the Punch Remain, check it out. But I do kind of miss the mixology side of bartending from back in the day when I was a bartender. So in cases like today, I'm actually going to just make cocktails up and teach you what I created. So our upcoming episode, you might have guessed at this point, is going to cover the one and only Vlad Dracula, not Bram Stoker's, although that obviously is dope and I clearly love a theme. But we are actually going to be talking about the actual guy who ruled in Wallachia, Romania in the 1400s. You might also know him by Vlad Tepes, as he was called even in his own time. In English, that would be Vlad the Impaler, all the same guy. One of the reasons I wanted to cover Vlad on this channel, and we're not going to get into a ton about his life right now, stay tuned for that episode. One of the reasons I wanted to cover Vlad is when I was 17, I took a rather lengthy trip throughout Eastern Europe. It was my first time abroad, and the first time I ever got drunk was actually in Transylvania right after touring Bran Castle, which is a castle that is often attributed to Dracula. And so I have quite a fondness for Dracula. I also like the historic figure in sort of an interested way. So I wanted to do this, but because I've been to Transylvania and because I've actually met the people, I also, despite my little costume, don't necessarily want to push too much into the vampirism. We are obviously going to talk about the correlations between the two figures, but it is a very specific distinction. Now, Dracula, being from Transylvania, in quotes, has done a lot after Bram Stoker's novel was published in the 1897, I believe. It did a lot for their tourism, and they love that. Obviously, economically speaking, it's been very good in that direction, but on a more personal, political, and cultural level, Romanians actually don't view Dracula the way a lot of people do now. Now, that is not to say that Dracula was like some fuzzy little bunny rabbit of a guy. Trust me, he was absolutely fucking not. Vlad the Impaler was a name for a reason. But in Romania, he is often regarded as sort of a historical figure that is a bit of a hero in some respects, because he was defending his land, which was actually Wallachia, not Transylvania. He was defending his land against nonstop conquering, basically. So he is viewed with a little bit more respect, and out of respect for those people, obviously I'm enjoying my theme here, but I wanted to celebrate their culture more than I wanted to celebrate the vampire thing. So all of that to say, I more or less decided that I'm going to be creating a layered martini and teaching all of you how to do it. And it's going to be based on two main flavor profiles: plums and cherries. Now, the reason I picked plums and cherries is they are very, very popular in Romania. It's definitely a flavor profile they really love, but it's also, they're grown there in the Carpathian Mountains. And the reason I love that for this is Wallachia, which is actually the state where Vlad was sort of ruling on and off throughout his life. Like 3 different times the dude was on the throne. Wallachia and Transylvania are actually divided by those mountains. And then around that division is where you actually find Bran Castle, which neither Bram Stoker nor Vlad Dracula ever actually entered, but is often lauded as like Dracula's castle. It is a very fun tour. I do recommend it, especially if you're a short person, because I am very short in real life. And the whole castle is like made for me. I'm 4'10", and everything was like proportionate to my height, because I guess people were smaller back then. So tall people, you're probably gonna have to duck. But if you're a mini like I am, you're actually probably gonna get a kick out of it. That was like the main thing I remember from walking through that castle. So all of that aside, let's get started on our cocktail. Now, in terms of ingredients for Vlad's Revenge, I've chosen to go with 1.5 ounces of Ume plum liqueur, 1 ounce of blackberry brandy. For that, I'm using Harem Walker. It's a nice trusty brandy. It's like $11 at the grocery store or at Total Wine. You have 1.5 ounces of plum vodka. For that, I'm using Plush. It's a nice, lightly sweet vodka. It goes great over ice on a summer day if you just want to like sip some vodka, but we're going to be using it in this drink. And then we have 0.75 ounces of tart cherry juice. For that, you're going to want the bright red, not the dark, like black cherry juice. And that's because we want to have that color differentiation when we go to layer our cocktail. You will be needing black edible glitter, red edible glitter, and then for our garnish, we're doing 1 red plum, 1 black plum, and a dash of brown sugar. And now in terms of tools, you're going to need a martini glass. Honestly, you could also use a rocks glass or a wine glass or whatever you really want. I find that in rocks glasses and martini glasses, the layered drinks work best. It's your drink though, like have it in a coffee mug if you want. You'll also need a mixing glass. You will need a lighter, or if you're smarter about it, a creme brulee torch. My creme brulee torch, I have 2. One is covered in resin and won't turn on, and the other one is without butane. So I will be doing it the old school bartender way with my own lighter, but ideally creme brulee torch is the way to go. You'll need a cutting board. You're going to need a paring knife and a jigger. So how do we make this drink? First things first, we're going to chill our glass. I'm going to use these obnoxiously large tongs because that's the first thing that I could find and I don't want to touch this with my hand. So we're going to place a bunch of ice inside of our martini glass. You can also just put your martini glass inside of the freezer if you have room. I currently do not. So we have ice in the martini glass. This goes off to the side because we're not ready for it yet. It's just gonna sit there. That's gonna kind of fog over. Okay, so when we are doing layered drinks, it's actually nowhere near as hard as it looks. Basically, it's simple gravity. You're going to take your heavier alcohols, and those are going to be what sit at the bottom, or your heavier, basically mix. You're going to sit that at the bottom, and then you're going to have the lighter, by weight, the lighter drink goes on top. So things with heavier sugars in them, like brandies and liqueurs, are going to sink lower naturally. So that's actually what we're going to start with. Now, this drink is a black and red martini. And there are a couple of reasons for that. 1, it's kind of Halloween-y and it sounds like fun. 2, we have the dark color of the cherry and the plum, both celebrated in the glass. I actually based this recipe off of the Ambras Portrait, a very famous Ambras portrait, which is located at Ambras Castle in Austria. That portrait is probably what we consider the most accurate version of Vlad Dracula as he was in real life. So it is one that is based on a sketch. It's not contemporary to him, but it's based on a sketch that was supposedly made during his lifetime. The portrait itself was painted in 1560. So fairly, like, not contemporary, since the dude died in 1476, closest thing we got, like within 90 years. So that's the one that we're basing it on. And in that portrait, we have Vlad wearing this beautiful headdress with a crushed red velvet cape, and like the top of his headdress is crushed red velvet. There is also a stone, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be ruby or garnet, but that stone is going to be the centerpiece of his headdress. And that headdress was more or less, it was almost like a crown for being the essentially warlord of Wallachia, which is basically what you had to be at that time. So we are basing this drink off of those things. So that's why we chose that color. Right now we're gonna do the Ume Plum Liqueur. This is a beautiful bottle. When you hold it up to the light, you'll see it looks almost like a grape color. It's not quite dark enough to pull off what we want, but it has that beautiful plum scent. So you have about 1.5 ounces, which is what this jigger is. I bought like the weirdest jigger. Be careful about your jiggers and check how many milliliters are in each. For whatever reason, this jigger is 1.5 to a 3/4 ounce. Normally they're 2 ounces or 1 ounce, or 1 ounce and 0.5. So double check when you get it so that your measurements are right. This jigger is a 1.5 ounce. So that's gonna be what's our plum liqueur. Then we have about 1 ounce of blackberry brandy. So I'm going to put this down right here, put the top on, and we've got our blackberry. Obviously, I'm eyeballing this at this point. Honestly, it's to taste. You can always add more or less, but you'll notice that this blackberry liqueur is a lot lighter, or is a lot darker rather, than the Ume. So now you've got more of a dark burgundy in the glass. I'm gonna hold it up so that you can see it on camera. So it looks a little bit more like that. Do you notice that this is almost like a science experiment? I used to call the bars I worked in my laboratories. It was so much fun. Highly recommended if you've never done it. I love it. So now we've got the brandy, we've got the plum liqueur. We're swirling it around. It's looking really nice. We're going to add 2 drops, more or less, of plum bitters. Bitters, for those who don't know, are just cocktail flavorings that don't really have sugar. They're often basically extracts of spices, and honestly, you can get like flavored bitters in like every flavor in the universe. You could also make it at home. This is lovely, and it is by Fay Brothers, which I really like. So 1, 2. Plum bitters, fun fact, is actually clear, so you can use it in almost anything and it won't change the color of your drink. So plum bitters over to the side. Now, what are we gonna do now? So we have black edible glitter. I have used a number of edible glitters. I've used fancy sprinkles. I've used, you name it. Right now I'm using prism powder, and it is just exactly what you think. It's glitter that you can eat. It's not gonna hurt you. It's not gonna change the flavor or even really the texture of your drink, although it will look like it changed the texture of your drink. I've used it in martinis. I've used it in punches for parties. I bought gold glitter for my sister's bridal shower, and all of the champagne toasts were gold and shimmery. It is a crowd pleaser, and it is so much fun. So now, take as much as you want. I like to do a hefty amount because I'm actually trying to change the literal color of this drink. So I took a certain amount of it, I'm gonna eyeball it, and I'm gonna keep going, pinch at a time. You could always add more, you can never really take away. So as you stir it, you'll start to notice that it looks very shimmery, it looks a lot darker, and it's beautiful. I will say that edible glitter does eventually fall to the bottom of your drinks, so swirling them a lot kind of helps with the effect. When you swirl, it just looks so cool. So you're gonna see it right there, and it's gorgeous. So now, we are going to toss out our ice. And all we're gonna do is stir in some ice in this drink before we pour it. We're not gonna shake it. The reason we're not gonna shake it is we're trying to minimize how much we water the brandy down because we want the weight of the brandy. Water is gonna make it lighter. So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna stir it for a few seconds. This is that, shaken, not stirred. This is stirred, not shaken. Also, fun fact, throughout the books of 007, he actually drinks it both ways. Not specifically shaken. But in the movies, I guess they changed it. So, just stirring it a little bit, and now we're going to pour the black part of our drink. All right, so that's gonna be the black layer of our drink. So we're going to put this off to the side, and now it's time for the brighter red layer that goes on top. So we're going to go with our plush vodka. Look at that color, by the way. How gorgeous is that? This vodka is lovely. Like I said before, it's lightly sweet. You can just sip it if you feel like it. I have. But we're going to do about 1.5 ounces of the vodka. Pour it into our mixing glass. And I had actually put my cherry juice in the fridge, which is why it wasn't out, because it's a perishable. Shake it up. You don't want any of that sediment to just kind of sit there if it's a nice fresh one. And for this one, you're doing about like 0.75 ounces. If you want to do a little more or less, it's entirely up to you. Again, we just want it to have the red color, but a lot of that red color is actually going to come from the sprinkles. So we've got this. So you can already tell that it's definitely a different hue than what is in this glass. So that's a good thing. We definitely wanted that. Now we are going to play with the sprinkles again. So we're switching over to the red sprinkles. I apologize for not knowing the name brand of this red sprinkle. It looks like it's called luster dust, but it's very hard to read the label. So I actually will be looking into my purchase histories and finding out what the name of this was because I love it now. I did it as an experiment. I want to be able to link it out to you guys in the comments. I just genuinely don't know what that says. So we are going to go with this red burgundy color. I love it. It looks honestly just like crushed velvet. Again, inspired by that beautiful Ambras Portrait, which is kind of what everybody thinks about when they think of Vlad. Almost put my wet spoon in with my dry. So, and it looks a lot like the red velvet of his helm. So, here we go. And as it mixes, you're gonna notice this particular one actually gives it almost like an iridescent metallic look. It's a little bit different than the black sparkle. The black sparkle is wonderful, it kind of looks like the night sky, but this one actually looks velvety when you look at it inside of the glass. I wanna make this a little lighter, so I am going to be adding a little bit of the ice to make it cold and also water it down. Again, we did chill the glass, but we didn't put as much ice in the black liquor, so because we want to keep it heavy. So for this one, we're going to try to get it a little colder. Just mix it around a few times though, nothing crazy. And then we're just going to get rid of that ice before we go to pour, because you don't want it to interfere with your layer. So now that we have this nice ruby garnet red, we're going to combine them. This is very tricky, and I'm not gonna lie, I've had to do it in a couple of different takes, because even me, where I was in bartending and in restaurants and everything for quite a long time, I still mess it up occasionally. So if you don't get it on the first try, honestly, it is okay, it is normal. So eventually you will, and it all tastes the same anyway, like after you mix it up, which you're going to do, so don't even worry about it. But it is fun to learn. So we're gonna take a spoon, you're gonna do the back of the spoon, that, you know, that, what is it, convex on the back. I definitely was not a math major. A convex back of the spoon is gonna go up against the glass, and we're going to, slow as molasses in January, try to layer this drink by pouring the liquid very, very gracefully on top of this spoon. Also, tilt the spoon just a little bit, because the liquid tends to travel up the length of the spoon and end up on your hands. It's never a good time, it's very sticky. This is, it's always, bartending's chaos, which is probably why I kind of like it, but anyway. So we are going to do just that. I know that there are a lot of bartenders out there that are kind of shitty about like the edible sprinkles, because bartenders are surly by nature. I know, I was one, and I am. Honestly, enjoy the shit out of your sprinkles. If you're a bartender that like talks shit about people enjoying like all these fun sprinkly stuff, we live in a dystopian like nightmare now. Let them enjoy the sparkle. So if you look, you've got dark down here and you have that light on top. So you have tart and light, sweet and heavy on the bottom. Okay, now let's talk garnishes. So for this, I decided that I didn't want to, I toyed with the idea of doing like the classic blood red, like dripping martini glass because of, you know, the vampire thing. And trust me, again, as a vampire fan, I was tempted, but again, I'm trying to kind of toe that line between obviously paying attention and giving a little of an homage to the myth of Count Dracula, but I also want to be respectful of the Romanian culture and kind of celebrate them and their local kind of almost folk hero to certain people as well. So I decided to forego that. Also, there's like a million different martinis out there that have like blood, quote unquote, dripping from them. If you really want to go find them, you can look those up. Instead, for this one, I wanted to stick to what we're already working with the martini. So we're going to do plums. Now, to pit, the plum, of course, does have a pit. So the way that you're going to slice into it is you're going to turn the plum on its side. So it starts here where you've got the top, turn it over like this, and then using your paring knife, you're going to slice into the plum and go all the way around. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna let you cut the plum open, and then the pit is only on one side. After you've done that, all you're gonna do is you're gonna cut two little slanty halves, like so. And we're gonna do the same thing, only doing one slice from the black plum. So again, it's gonna be on your side. You're gonna cut it in a circular pattern, a little off center, twist the plum a little bit, open it up, pit's right here. There's no pit on this side. And then again, we're just gonna do a black slice. You'll notice the insides are actually very different as well. So we've got black and red. And now what we're gonna do is we're going to take some brown sugar. I keep my brown sugar in this little jar. So we're gonna do some brown sugar and we're going to very lightly coat one of the slices. Let's do the red one because you can actually see it. We're going to give it just a little dusting of the brown sugar. I tend to make a mess. And then ideally again with a creme brulee torch, if you remember the butane, but if you don't, lighters work. So we're just going to, without burning the shit out of ourselves, honestly put it on a plate, but I've done this enough to where I probably don't have nerve endings anymore. And you're just gonna get that sugar to melt. That's all you're doing. You're just bruleeing the sugar. It might take a little longer with a lighter, but you're bruleeing the sugar on top so that it has a little bit of a caramelized coating. And we're gonna do that for all 3 slices. And in order to create a slit on the, so it goes over the glass, just very lightly cut into the center, not all the way through, with your paring knife. And that's gonna go right on the side of your glass. So we're going to fan it right here. So I've been putting these on the side of the glass, but you can also use the cocktail picks. And I did get bat ones, so I'm absolutely going to be using these. Look at that. It's precious. It needs a name. Somebody give this little bat a name in the comments. So you can also spear these, which is what I had in mind initially. And if you're gonna do that, honestly, spear them a little closer to the rind. And I'm going black, red, black, because I think that that's a fun little pattern to keep. And there you go. So you've got your little bat and your plums, and they're just gonna sit on your glass. Now, you will notice that your drink will not stay layered. That is perfectly okay. In fact, it's already starting to spin around and mix. As it mixes, it's actually going to have a black and red sort of a kind of a melding of the colors. They don't immediately blend together into one thing, which is very cool because the black and red glitter actually have a very awesome velvety effect. So enjoy that part of it. Stir it up and cheers. My name is Cara Mayadamo. Thank you for joining us. Let me know how you like this drink, by the way. It's been a really long time since I've kind of invented one off the top of my head. I used to bartend many moons ago. It's been a long time. So really glad that it gets me kind of doing this again. And hopefully you guys enjoy this too. Let me know if you name the bat. That'd be great. and thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for our Vlad Dracula episode rolling out sometime, maybe in the next month or so. I don't even know when this is going to air, but hopefully like within a month of you guys watching this episode. We will be posting all of the ingredients so that you can go and kind of do your shopping. Thank you so much to Rosilio for your endless patience with my many, many takes and mispronunciations of words. Thank you for Chaz McNeese, who is of course our producer, for being ever diligent with the lighting and with the camera angles, and of course with keeping Wendy the cat occupied while we tried to shoot this episode. Follow us on the socials. You'll see them up on the screen. And if you like this one, like, subscribe, tell your friends, have a cocktail hour. Everybody make a drink and, you know, watch it with me so that I'm not drinking by myself. And we will see you next time. Cheers.